Okay, so you're ready for another deep dive, huh?
Yeah,
Well, buckle up, because this one is a wild ride through some pretty profound stuff. You sent us a transcript of a YouTube video, right?
that's right.
A teaching by Fitch today. The title's a mouthful. Chuasua Longhum teach tua. But the ideas in it are powerful.
Extremely powerful. We're talking about reality itself, perception, and what actually constitutes true spiritual practice. This isn't just theoretical stuff either. It's got huge implications for how you live your life.
Absolutely. So we're going to unpack all of this. Make sure you come away with clear takeaways. You ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
This teaching starts off with a real head spinner. Life happens exactly as it is seen, Fitch to us says. Basically, the way you perceive things, that's your reality.
Mm-hmm. It really flips the script on how we usually think, doesn't it? We tend to think there's this fixed world out there and we're just trying to figure it out. But
Yeah.
this teaching says no, it's our seeing that's the fundamental driver of our experience.
Whoa, that's a big one. So if our perception shapes reality, where does that leave us in terms of like spiritual growth or liberation? We usually think there's some goal to reach, right? Some state of enlightenment we have to strive for.
Well, here's the kicker. When our seeing aligns with truth, with things as they actually are, that truth naturally manifests in our lives. No more struggle, no more chasing after some distant goal.
So it's not about becoming something we're not, but about seeing clearly what already is. It's like we're already free, but we haven't realized it yet.
Exactly. The transcript really emphasizes this point. It's not about doing more meditation, more rituals. It's about a fundamental shift in perception.
Okay, so then what's the point of spiritual practice if it's not about achieving something?
The source dives into that. It says that if, after you've understood this truth, you still feel the need to actively escape suffering, to do something to be free, then you haven't truly grasped it.
That makes a lot of sense, right? If you really understand that you're inherently free, why would you need to escape?
Precisely. It's like searching for your glasses when they're already on your head. The transcript says that with correct seeing, life starts to unfold naturally, effortlessly. No more pushing against the current.
Like going with the flow.
More like realizing that you are the flow. And this leads to what Thich Nhat Hanh describes as mastery over birth and death.
So we're not talking about living forever.
No, it's about freedom from the fear and attachment to the cycle of existence. No longer being driven by it, but consciously engaging with it, maybe even using it to help others.
Deep stuff. And that brings us to the present moment, right? The importance of being here now. The transcript is pretty clear on this point. No dwelling on the past, no worrying about the future.
Well, think about it. If our perception shapes our reality, then clinging to past perceptions or projecting them into the future keeps us trapped in those limited ways of seeing.
We're living in the echoes of yesterday and the whispers of tomorrow instead of experiencing the vibrancy of right now.
And that leads us to the next big piece of this puzzle, the nature of thoughts. The speaker asks us, point blank, do you perceive your thoughts as real?
That's a good question, actually. I mean, thoughts can feel so real, so powerful. How can they not be real?
The source points out that thoughts arise and cease. They're constantly changing, appearing, and disappearing. So, are they truly real in the deepest sense?
It's like the difference between knowing intellectually that thoughts come and go and actually feeling it on a gut level, believing it.
It's easy to get caught up in the content of our thoughts, believing that they're who we are, or that they reveal some absolute truth. The speaker even talks about their own struggle with this, how persistent thoughts can be.
I think we can all relate to that, right? The constant chatter in our heads.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we make sense of all this? How do we tell what's real from what's not?
That's where the two key concepts of Vok and Thut come in.
Vonk and Thut, what do those mean?
Vonk translates to delusion or illusion, and Thut means reality or truth. The entire teaching hinges on recognizing the difference between them.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we know if we're seeing Vong or Thut?
Think of it like a magic trick. A magician makes a rabbit appear out of a hat. We know it's an illusion, right? The rabbit wasn't actually in the hat.
Yeah.
In the same way, our deluded perceptions can create an appearance of reality that isn't actually true. We see things that aren't really there, or we misinterpret what we see.
And as long as we keep falling for those illusions, we're stuck.
Right.
The transcript says that's the root of suffering.
Exactly. The whole cycle of birth and death, what's called samsara in Buddhism, appears real because we're caught in Vong, in delusion.
And that brings up the different views within Buddhism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Theravada and Mahayana.
This teaching is more aligned with Mahayana Buddhism. In Theravada, delusion is seen as real, something to be eliminated to reach nirvana, which is seen as a separate state.
So like getting rid of the bad stuff to reveal the good stuff underneath.
Sort of. But in Mahayana, as this teaching presents it, delusion itself is seen as unreal.
So there's nothing to eliminate.
Right. Liberation isn't about attaining something new, but about recognizing the true nature of what's already here.
Yeah, that's a pretty big difference.
It is. And to help us understand this idea of non-attachment to our thoughts, to those delusions, the speaker uses a series of analogies with animals.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about those. There's the dog, right?
Yeah, the dog chasing a clod of dirt. It represents our tendency to directly engage with our thoughts, trying to suppress them or figure them out, a futile effort like the dog getting nowhere.
Then there's the cat, patiently watching for a mouse.
That's observing thoughts without getting involved, waiting for them to subside on their own.
And the fox.
The fox gauging its leap for a chicken. That's understanding the nature of thoughts, anticipating them, without reacting to each one.
And finally, the lion ignoring the bait.
Complete non-engagement. Thoughts simply don't hold any allure. The speaker asks us to reflect on which animal's approach we identify with most. Which one resonates with you, listener?
I think I'm a mix of the dog and the cat. Sometimes I'm chasing, sometimes I'm just watching. What about you?
I find myself drawn to the fox, trying to be more strategic, but ultimately, the lion's effortless mastery is the goal, isn't it?
Absolutely. But then the teaching shifts gears, moving away from the content of thoughts to what's called kaibid, the knowing itself.
The awareness that's always present, observing the thoughts but not defined by them.
So instead of getting lost in the endless stream of thoughts, we focus on the underlying awareness that's witnessing it all.
Like watching a movie, the screen stays the same, no matter what scenes are playing.
Or like waves on the ocean. The waves come and go, but the ocean remains.
Beautiful analogy, and the teaching emphasizes that this knowing is different from just being aware of our thoughts.
So it's not about labeling thoughts like, oh, there's a thought about dinner. It's about recognizing the awareness that's aware of that thought and everything else.
This knowing isn't obscured by delusion, nor is it lost when delusion fades away. It's always there.
The transcript says it's aware of both presence and absence, existence and non-existence, without being affected by either.
Think of a boat navigating a stream. It avoids both banks to reach the ocean. That's not finding a middle ground, but transcending both extremes.
The knowing encompasses everything. It's not limited by anything.
And that changes how we understand spiritual practice. It's not about achieving some future state, but about cultivating this clear, present knowing right now.
Whatever arises, we know it. Whatever ceases, we know that too, all in this present moment.
The source mentions mindfulness of breath and body as practices to cultivate this awareness. But the breath, the body, these are just objects of awareness, not the ultimate goal.
They're what's being known, not the knowing itself.
As this awareness deepens, it becomes what's called tie and try, all-knowing, aware of everything, even emptiness or silence.
And this is where the teaching tackles the idea of trying to extend the space between thoughts.
It challenges that notion. True emptiness can't be manipulated or lengthened.
The desire to do that often comes from a mistaken belief in a separate self, seeking peace in the absence of thoughts.
But the focus should be on the knowing that's aware of both thoughts and emptiness.
The knowing is more fundamental than what's being known.
And it's crucial to understand that this knowing isn't disturbed by thoughts or by the absence of thoughts. It just is.
So build confidence in this knowing. Trust it. Once that trust is there, thoughts lose their power to disrupt you.
Whatever arises is known, and the knowing is separate from what's known. The object of awareness doesn't define the awareness.
So initially, we might need to focus our attention to recognize this knowing, but the goal is effortless knowing.
Like noticing an itch, you don't have to try to feel it, it just registers.
Thoughts arise and are known spontaneously, no effort required. The knowing is simply present.
Like our ability to hear sounds, we don't have to strain to hear, it just happens.
The source encourages us to reflect on that. That natural awareness of sound is the same knowing we're talking about.
And finally, the speaker leaves us with a profound question. Is this knowing attached to the physical body?
Something to ponder, right? What do you think, listener?
It's a deep inquiry into the nature of awareness itself.
So to wrap up, the key takeaway here is this shift from the content of thoughts to the underlying knowing.
Recognizing that awareness is the foundation of our experience, not the ever-changing thoughts.
And that realization, according to Thich Nhat Hanh, is the key to understanding reality and finding liberation.
What does this mean for you, listener? How does it change how you see your own thoughts, emotions, even your sense of self?
We encourage you to revisit the transcript, your notes, maybe even explore more of Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings.
This is just the beginning of the journey.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a wild ride.
Indeed. Until next time.